Today we will be doing something a little bit different. I will be reading Reddit stories while I try to not lose elo and get to, at the very least, close to the 1600s in random battles. Number 1. Am I the a-hole for not supporting my friend's AI music career? Okay, I'm gonna go for no immediately, and I really hope you guys do too. So a friend of mine likes to make music. She used to write her own music and lyrics based and play them on a guitar. She has always been alright at both but never brilliant, which didn't matter because we were only jamming among friends. It was fun. About half a year ago, she discovered some AI music tool which you can feed prompts and lyrics and it'll spit out whatever genre of style you like, with AI generated instruments and vocals. Just saying that makes me feel disgusting, I'm just gonna be honest. I explained to her that I'm a little uneasy about the idea because it takes away from the creative process and craftsmanship of making music real, but I didn't press the issue because I thought it was just for fun. Now though, she fancies the songs she's created with AI so much that she started a campaign for them. She's published an album on Spotify and advertised it on Insta. She wants me to share her post and support her music career. That's in quotation marks because that is not a career. That is just scamming people at that point. I don't want to do that. Does that make me a bad friend? I think I've made my position on this clear without even really saying much. No, I don't think you're an a-hole. I think this makes you someone who has values, you know? You're willing to uphold, and that's good. I think that also that makes you a good friend as well because you're holding her accountable. Like, the worst type of friends are people who feed into your delusions. Like, if your friend is doing something bad, your duty as a friend is to tell them you're being a jerk, you know? Art is literally like the only thing humans have that can separate us from animals, and AI music seems just like an oxymoron. It's like, you know, it's like when AI artists are like, AI art is so much harder than normal artists who draw. Like, we need to stone them. We need to stone them. Yeah, it's sad she used to make like good music herself, and that has lots of like, she sacrificed all of her artistic integrity. Maybe she didn't feel like, you know, she was good enough or something, but that's really no excuse. Like, okay, I actually have a little bit of experience on it. Story time. I like to draw, and I used to like to draw a lot especially. And in high school, my friend asked me to make a cover for her art for this NFT album. Now, at the time, NFTs were not known. Like, now everybody knows what it is. It's just a scam. It's the scam that pollutes, basically. But back in the day, no one back in the day, I don't know what this was, 2022, 2021, I think? Yeah, 2022, 2021. Like, people didn't really know what NFTs were, and I was ignorant, and I agreed at the time. I made her the cover. And then I searched up what an NFT actually was, and I was like, oh, this is disgusting, and this is like spitting on art. So I didn't allow her to turn it, like, it didn't end up getting turned into an NFT. Thank God. I'll put up the drawing right here if I can find it. So no, you're not the a-hole. I have more respect for drug dealers than AI artists. Like, that at least takes talent. That you're putting yourself on the line. And the verdict was not the a-hole, obviously. Next one. Am I the a-hole for not wanting to attend my mom's burial because of what I found out after her death? Well, it could only get better from here, really, based on the title. I am the youngest of my mother's children and the most educated. In 2009, I encouraged my brother and older brother to buy a house. At the time, my mother did have a credit history, but my brother and father did. With my guidance, we bought the house using a loan from my older sister for the down payment. The mortgage was under my father's and brother's names. From 2009 to 2014, my mother and brother made the mortgage payments. After I graduated college in 2014, I took over the payments with my mother. Damn. Since I earned more, I paid the larger share, even after I moved out in 2016 to attend graduate school. I continued paying the mortgage while in grad school, working full-time and living in a rented room. OP is bionic until 2021. In 2018, my mom called crying that she could no longer work because she's aging. She initially told my older brother, who did nothing, but insisted she continued working. I just gotta say, the older brother seems like the real villain of the story so far. She then told me I retire her. Oh, I retire her another burden. Yeah, that's a lot of responsibility just off the bat. I had to take process her Medicare and Medicaid and Social Security. Then my brother came to me about getting their life insurance again. Another burden, as it turned out. I ended up paying it. However, I didn't find out until 2021 that my brother listed only himself as the sole beneficiary of the life insurance. This man is the spawn of Satan, I swear. Then he wasn't paying. Oh, I blocked payments after he refused to change the beneficiary, and my mom continued to support him in 2024. All right, this is exactly the definition of mom boy that people use a lot. Or what's it called? Like boy mom, yeah. After I stopped paying the mortgage, my mother, father, and brother covered the mortgage until they refinanced the house in 2024. The refinance yielded between $130,000 and $150,000. However, they only gave me $10,000 from that amount, keeping the rest. Primarily, my brother, my mom lied to me at the time, claiming that there wasn't much money for the refinance. I only found out the true amount a few days ago from my dad. Why is this is cartoonishly diabolical. Like, they are all planning against my girl. After my mother recent passing, my brother asked all of us to contribute to her funeral expenses. I initially offered $4,000, the largest contribution. However, a few days ago, my father told me that my mother knowingly lied to me about the refinances and supported my brother's decision to keep most of the money. Yeah, like I said, cartoonishly evil. We need to put like... Did your mom have like a red triangular tail and horns growing out of her head? By any chance? I also learned that my brother initially wanted to give me only $5,000, and it was my father who insisted to be raised to $10,000. Given these revelations, I decided not to contribute financially to my mother's funeral. Understandable. And not to attend. There we go. We are immigrants, and my parents and family have misogynistic mindsets that male child the most important. Oh, see, she's a woman. That was your first mistake. She's a woman, daughter of immigrants. That's max difficulty right there. That was your first mistake was being a girl. And my dad informed me a few days ago that it's the sister's job to support the brother to be successful. My brother's 8 years older and married with a job. He's done nothing for me or my parents, but my parents always attribute my accomplishments and help to them. Our dad and my other older siblings are begging me, but I'm done. Sorry for any typos, I left out some parts because the story is too long already. That's obviously very difficult. Listen, typically because of the way that I grew up, I think that it's often better just to like take blame for stuff to keep like the peace, quote unquote, even if you're not in the wrong. However, this is so different because it involves money, and that's just one thing you never mess with. Like it's messing with the stranger's money is already the most terrible thing, and messing with your own family's money, it's like that's just an elite level of betrayal. Like, I don't know what the relationship was in terms of like closeness, because I assume that OP did this out of a sense of obligation, as it seemed. Like, if you're I think in general, generally if you're an immigrant, it's like, oh, you're not gonna put your mom in a retirement home, like you're gonna take care of her. And that's not a bad thing, unless you have a mom like OP's mom, who's the spawn of Satan. I'm not sure, but listen, OP sounds like an amazing daughter, and I'm genuinely so sorry that they treated her this way. This is basically treason. I feel like if you choose not to go, you wouldn't be the a-hole. I want to make that clear. Like, I would be feeling so betrayed. Your mother is supposed to protect you and love you, and we see her. Everyone treated you with such terrible sexism. Like, that's the thing. Usually, for immigrant households, especially if they're more traditional and conservative, if you're a woman, you shut up. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, if you're a woman, you serve like the males, like whether it be like your father, your brother, your uncles. Like, that's the mindset. So whatever you choose, I think that would be reasonable. I'm sure there's going to be people who say like you'll regret not going, and I can't guarantee that you won't. But they aren't in the right to tell you that. This is something you need time to process. People need space after being betrayed in such a manner. Like, all of these years, they've been lying to her. Like, it's going to be really difficult to get that sense of closure, because normally if someone does you wrong, like, you can talk to them, but she's passed. You can't do that anymore. People need this time to process. So, understandable if you do not go. And I feel like this is also something I see where people are like, oh, immigrants specifically will be like, you have to have kids because they'll take care of you. And it seems like the only reason people have children is so that, when they're older, they'll have someone to help them pay off loans or stuff. And, I understand wanting someone to take care of you is normal, but treating them like your little piggy banks is disgusting. So I'm sorry, definitely not the a-hole. And the verdict was not the a-hole, of course. Am I the a-hole for not answering the door when my ex's mom showed up at my apartment unannounced? Alright, this is a lot. Let's go. This happened a couple years ago, but I'm still talking about it, and she thinks that I'm the a-hole. I have sole custody of my children. My ex and his family live about 9 hours to drive from me. One day at around 9 a.m., there was a knocking on my bedroom window. I peek through the bottom of the blinds, and I just see a woman's sneakers. So I peeked higher and make eye contact with my ex's mom. All I can think is, what the hell? The apartments where I live are not gated, so anybody can drive onto the property and just not go in buildings without a key, which means ex's mom couldn't knock on my door because she couldn't enter my building. Anyways, now that she sees me, I change and I go see why she's there. Only reason why she has my address is because a few months back she asked to mail some stuff for the kids, and I dumbly gave her my address. She tells me she was in the neighborhood. I asked her why she didn't call me before arriving, and she said it was a last-minute decision. I let her in and she sees the kids for a bit. When she leaves, I tell her next time she needs to give me a heads up before arriving, and I'm not talking 10 minutes, I need at least a week. So this is where I might be the a-hole. About 4 months later, she pulls the stunt again when I hear the tapping on my windows. I know exactly who it is. I don't bother looking out the windows. She starts calling me. After the 5th call, I answer. She tells me to open up because she wants to see the kids. And I'm like, what? I'm not even home. Why didn't she tell me she was coming? I'm 45 minutes away visiting my dad and the kids. She demands dad's address. I refuse to give it to her. I tell her I have no idea when I will be home. Yeah, complete lie. Anyways, she doesn't believe me. She thinks I'm home again, says it was a last-minute decision. I hang up on her. I'm getting texts from the ex demanding I let his mom see the kids. I tell him what I told her. I am not home. Imagine my surprise when I hear the police banging on my door a few minutes later. I don't answer. I get a call from a random number. The police officer. Oh shoot, the police officer, damn. He is there to perform a wellness check because ex's mom hasn't heard from me in 3 days and she's extremely worried. Also, according to him, it is illegal not to answer the door when a police officer knocks. I tell him she's lying. I just poked her on the phone, she showed up unannounced. I made it clear to her to not do that, and I am out with family. I don't need to come back just because she shows up unannounced. She is my ex's mom. I don't need to talk to her. After the phone call, I get a text from my ex calling me an a-hole. And how hard would it have been to let his mom see the kids? She drove all the way there just to see him. I want to make it clear, I don't mind her visiting, I don't mind her being around my kids, but I can't stand her showing up unannounced and demanding to see my kids like that. It was like she was on a weird power trip. Guys, never get married. Worst decision it seems to be. Alright, right off the bat, I can already tell you why this woman has full custody of her kids. Because she seems to be the only sane adult in this kid's life. So yeah, obviously, first of all, not the a-hole. And yeah, we can very much see that the apple does not fall far from the tree. Because both the mother and the ex-husband are clinically insane. Like, she has full custody of her kids, okay? Let's get that straight. She does no legal obligation to open up the door. And like, what kind of person wants to stay in contact with the family of their ex after they break up? And I can't tell you why they separated, but I can definitely tell you it must have been a damn good reason based on the behavior that we see here. Like I said, there's no actual obligation to open the door, but the fact that she did it the first time, she's already very nice. Like, she didn't have to. That was very nice. She's very much being the bigger person there by even allowing the grandmother to see the kids. But also, if someone is willing to lie to the police to get their way, I would never trust them with my kids. Like, what kind of person weaponizes the police? That's crazy. All she had to do was ask, but she couldn't even do that. That family seems like, she can't even take responsibility for their own actions, like, as a grown woman. That's insane. If that were me, I would get a restraining order and never let my kids interact with that side of the family. It very much seems genetic. And your friend is not your friend. She could not even understand that just because she's the kid's grandmother, like, that doesn't really make her family, you know what I mean? Like, family is who you choose, and I beg of you, do not choose to let this woman back into your life. Like, please, please, please. She seems like a legitimately, she is a danger, and so is her husband. Because if she's willing to lie to the police, she's willing to lie to a lot more people about a lot more stuff. Alright, am I the a-hole for telling my fat friend to stop talking about getting in shape? Oh, little background information about myself. I am in good physical shape. I diet and meal prep. Pretty much your average gym bro. My friend, on the other hand, is medically obese and a gamer. Alright, I'm feeling a little bit called out here, but that's fine. Every couple of months, he'll go on about how he wants to change his life, get in shape, and diet, and be consistent in the gym. Whew. Then he'll ask me for the same advice they give countless times. Complain about his life and why he's fat. Ultimately, he'll ask me to start taking him to the gym. He'll go like one time, then just flake out and not go again. He'll then randomly start complaining that I never take him. Then he'll give up and repeat this process. I literally cannot tell you how many times I have made workout programs for him. Pep talks, meal prep suggestions, and directions. Well, I'm sick of it. I told him this time something along the lines of, stop asking me for help, you never take my advice, and blame your circumstances on your past. He then went on and told our other friend and told me, hey, can I go to the gym with you? OP doesn't want to take me and help me. I went on to tell him he has no self-control, no accountability, he is a hedonist, and he blames all his F-ups on other people. Then I said, just do it. Stop talking about it your whole life and do it. Alright. As someone who used to be really fat and has lost like more than 60 pounds in her lifetime, and tried lots of times, gave up, got tired, gave up, rinse and repeat, I feel like I have like, I can say this, okay, because I'm a former fat person. And I've lost a lot of weight. You know, I don't think he's the jerk. Listen, people have made like when I was fat, people made snide remarks to me about my weight my whole life, or even kind of bullied me in a roundabout way. But the actual change was when my brother made me weigh myself and just straight up told me I was fat. And I was like, listen, like, I know that seems harsh, but like, I needed that. I needed someone to be harsh with me, introduce me to what a calorie was, so that I would finally make that change. Like, and at the time I very much was like a hedonist, like a slave to my own desires, and my desire was food. Sometimes you need people to be harsh with you to realize that like you need to just stop just saying stuff and actually, you know, put your mind to it, because ultimately you just become a liar at one point. Like, I can see how he was kind of mean, but I think the friend needed to see this, especially as someone who's like morbidly obese. That's even more of a reason to say this. Like, morbidly obese is, your friend might die. That is a huge problem. So, I don't think he's the a-hole. Was it rude? Yes. But I think it's what needed to be done, and I think he ultimately did his friend good. And because of that, like, I don't think he's the a-hole. Also, like, something that's not being acknowledged here is that he said that he did, like, you know, meal prep ideas and, like, regimens. Like, those cost money. People pay coaches for that. And he's presumably doing that for free. So he's wasting his time, he's wasting his resources, and potentially wasting his money, you know? So, huge jerk. Like, I feel like that's not being acknowledged, you know? Like, it's like, I just feel like he's being very ungrateful. And yeah, he does need to just, like, step it up and come through with what he says he's going to do. Like, that's just, I know it's very harsh, but I feel like that's the reality. And I think I could apply that to my life as well. Like, you know, stop procrastinating and just do stuff. And the verdict was not the a-hole. I don't know if you guys will agree on my take for this one, but that's just my personal opinion. Like, he could have been nicer, but you know. Am I the a-hole for expecting my wife to visit my family on the holidays? My wife, 32, and I, 33, married over 2 years ago. She is still salty about what my parents wore to the wedding. My dad wore jeans with a blazer, my mom wore a Patagonia-like vest under a silk shirt, and was clearly visible in Crocs. I understand that was definitely not the wedding appropriate attire, really, and I did tell them what to wear. However, having dealt with them my entire life, I cannot say I'm surprised. She says she is upset because her wedding photos were not nice, and she never framed them. My dad also yelled at the waiter, which was bad, yes, but she didn't know until after the wedding, and my sister managed to get him under control, so it didn't impact the wedding. Alright, this guy's parents seem just like the most stand-up people, gotta say. We fought about this a few days at the end of the wedding, but it died down and we stopped discussing it. Partly because my parents live 7 hours away, so she never indicated with them after the wedding. She told me she wasn't visiting my family. And I took it to mean that year, which was fine, as the memory was too fresh, but she actually meant never. We had her son 8 months ago and she refuses to come to see my parents for the holidays. I would understand if it was that she wasn't feeling well, but she's feeling amazing because she hiked for hours the previous weekend and wants to go skiing again this season. She basically just doesn't want to interact with my family. I wonder why. My parents are not easy to deal with. Damn. My dad is not friendly, and he is bitter from being unaccomplished. So that basically has left them with a miserable attitude. However, visiting once a year and sucking it up a few hours a day when he hasn't actually blown up or made any comments towards my wife beyond at the beginning when he said he doesn't like her profession and not to her face, doesn't it seem unreasonable for her to dislike him that much? She refuses, and traveling with an 8-month-old is incredibly difficult. She's still breastfeeding him, but has some frozen milk built up and thinks I should accept her not wanting to visit my parents by either bringing the frozen milk to feed him for a few days, or I go alone. I tried to tell her it is really rude not to at least try to get along, and if there is a fight, she won't need to interact with them again, but she straight up refuses. I feel like I'm being made the a-hole for not expecting her to do this, but speaking with colleagues and close friends, most have family they don't like, and most do not like their in-laws, and they still made an effort to at least go once a year. My wife says they ruined her wedding photos, so she's not visiting them. Anyone who is mean to waiters, like service workers, teachers, anyone, they deserve to be thrown in a volcano, and I'm talking about the worst punishments possible. But that sort of attire for a wedding, it seems very passive-aggressive. Like, it's not even passive anymore, that's just active aggression. So, the fact that he wasn't even surprised about their behavior, and he didn't do anything about it, it's like, do you even care about your wife, or do you feel like you need to take responsibility? Like, I understand, like, he's not his parents, but if my parents did that, I would feel some sense of responsibility just by affiliation. Like, I feel like that's natural. And the way that he mentions his dad was rude behind his wife's back, like, these are not isolated incidents. There's no way we're not seeing the full story here. Obviously they don't like her and are miserable people, and I understand if someone wants to keep the peace with your in-laws. I think that's, being the bigger person. But, like, she is still breastfeeding. She gave birth to their kid. Like, give the woman some space and be on her side for now. I feel like that goes without saying. But she's been on the receiving ends of your parents' hostility for a while. And he's probably not telling the full story. He's definitely not telling the full story. He literally describes his father as bitter. And the fact that he doesn't like her profession, she's probably successful and that's why he's bitter. If you really wanted to keep the peace, man, you would make your parents apologize like grown adults to your wife. So that's my opinion. The verdict was the a-hole. Thank you for watching, guys. This was a bit different, but let me know your opinions, because I feel like for some of these, like the one where he was mean to his friend, like he just told him off, I feel like that could go either way. But thank you so much for listening. And this is the ELO that I landed on, so I'm pretty happy.